In the exclusive world of private aviation, Alex Carter quietly built a respected business, overcoming countless obstacles along the way. But when powerful forces set out to destroy his reputation, Alex found himself facing a storm he never anticipated. Targeted by Richard Bennett, a ruthless executive determined to sabotage him, Alex's integrity, courage, and meticulous documentation became his strongest weapons. Witness a gripping journey of professional struggle, courageous allies stepping forward, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Discover how one person's unwavering resolve can ignite systemic change and reshape an entire industry. Could you stand strong when everything seems against you? Let us know what you think Alex should have done. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories of integrity and resilience. Alex Carter glanced through the wide windows of the private aviation lounge, observing the calm early morning light spilling across the runway. The sleek lines of his jet glistened under the warm rays, a comforting sight amid the early bustle of mechanics and ground crew attending to their duties. It was routine, a comforting kind of routine that Alex had built his life around. Alex was a methodical person, meticulous about every detail. This quality had carried him through the many challenges he'd faced while building Carter Aviation from the ground up. It wasn't a large fleet, but it was reputable, respected by the tight-knit community of clients who valued safety, punctuality, and professionalism. Today was like many others, a straightforward charter flight taking clients to an important business conference several states away. As he reviewed the pre-flight checklist, Alex's eyes caught the photograph taped discreetly to the corner of his control panel. His spouse, Jordan, smiled warmly from the snapshot, holding their adopted daughter, Emma, on a sunny beach. That small photo was a reminder of what mattered most, anchoring him to a quiet sense of pride and calm. His family was his foundation, providing a solid place to stand amid the occasional turbulence of life. "All good, Mr. Carter?" asked Martin, the senior mechanic, tapping lightly on the cockpit door frame. "Perfect as usual, Martin," Alex replied, smiling. "Thanks for checking." "You're good to go in about 30 minutes, Martin added. "Weather's clear and everything checks out perfectly." "Just how we like it," Alex said lightly. Martin nodded and headed back to his tasks. It was interactions like these, professional, respectful, routine, that Alex valued deeply. They represented the quiet victories, the kind that didn't make headlines but ensured every flight was smooth and safe. Alex stepped out of the jet to do his own quick inspection. His crisp uniform drew appreciative nods from some of the younger crew members still working their way up in aviation. He often encouraged them, recalling his own early struggles when few took him seriously. It had taken him years of careful effort to build credibility and trust. He walked slowly around the aircraft, eyes sharp and focused, checking each carefully maintained panel and component. He was deeply absorbed in his routine when he heard a small group approaching from behind. Alex turned, his eyes calmly observant, recognizing the faces immediately. Richard Bennett, a regular client at the private aviation terminal, was approaching with his usual entourage. Richard was well known locally, a wealthy business executive accustomed to preferential treatment. His confident gait and loud conversation always made it clear that he believed he belonged here more than most. Richard noticed Alex, briefly made eye contact, then quickly looked away. But as he passed, he slowed, glancing again toward Alex with a faint, derisive smirk. "Didn't realize we were hiring just about anyone these days," Richard said casually to the men accompanying him, loud enough to ensure Alex heard clearly. The men around him chuckled lightly, clearly uncomfortable yet unwilling to challenge him. Richard paused deliberately, waiting for Alex to respond, baiting him. Alex's heartbeat quickened slightly, but he remained outwardly calm, turning to face Richard directly. "Good morning, Mr. Bennett," Alex said politely, his voice steady and professional, his eyes holding Richard's gaze without hesitation. "I trust you're having a pleasant day." Richard raised an eyebrow slightly, clearly irritated by Alex's composed response. He shrugged dismissively. "Let's hope the pilots today are actually qualified," Richard said, a biting edge in his tone. His associates remained silent, clearly aware Richard was crossing a line but unwilling to speak up. Richard walked on, laughing softly to himself, leaving a trail of tension behind him. Alex stood still, watching Richard's group move toward a larger, more luxurious private jet further down the runway. He took a slow breath, carefully composing himself. He understood clearly what had just happened, a subtle, deliberate attempt to demean and provoke him. It wasn't the first time someone had targeted him, assuming his place in aviation was somehow undeserved or inappropriate due to who he was. He mentally noted the time and location, intending to write down the incident later, as he always did. Documentation had become second nature to Alex, a habit formed from years of quietly facing and overcoming prejudices that lurked beneath the surface of the professional world he inhabited. Alex refocused on his aircraft, completing his inspection calmly and methodically, refusing to let Richard's remarks disrupt his day. He climbed back into the cockpit, began organizing his flight documents, and took a moment to glance again at the photo of Jordan and Emma. "You're flying high," he whispered to himself, smiling gently. "Just stay the course." As Alex prepared to board his clients, he reminded himself that incidents like these weren't simply isolated annoyances. They represented deeper, systemic attitudes that sometimes erupted into his carefully ordered life, attitudes he had vowed never to ignore. He always chose his battles wisely, determined not to compromise his professionalism or his dignity. Soon his clients arrived, cheerful and appreciative, unaware of the tension that had just passed. Alex greeted them warmly, assisting them on board, answering their questions patiently, and ensuring their comfort. The flight promised to be smooth and pleasant, exactly the experience Alex had committed to delivering. As the jet taxied onto the runway, Alex allowed himself a moment of reflection. He understood that his presence here, confidently navigating the elite world of private aviation, was itself an act of quiet defiance. Every successful flight, every satisfied customer, every impeccably maintained aircraft stood as evidence against those who doubted his place in the skies. With practiced ease, Alex smoothly lifted the jet into the clear morning sky, leaving the runway behind as the world fell into neat, organized patterns below. For now, his focus was on the horizon, steady and certain. But beneath the serene calmness of the flight, Alex knew that today's brief encounter was far from over. Richard Bennett had drawn a line in the sand, whether deliberately or impulsively, and Alex understood he might soon face greater turbulence. Yet Alex Carter had always navigated storms with care and precision. This was simply another challenge to document, another injustice to confront calmly, methodically, and strategically. He had built his life and career carefully, piece by piece, refusing to yield to prejudice or hate. For now, the sky ahead was clear. But Alex knew the real challenge lay ahead, hidden in shadows cast by people like Richard. Whatever storms came next, he was ready to weather them with dignity, careful planning, and unwavering resolve. The days following Alex's encounter with Richard Bennett passed quietly at first, as if the tension had faded entirely. Alex continued his work diligently, conducting flights, maintaining his jets, and ensuring his clients experienced only seamless journeys. Yet beneath this routine calm, Alex remained vigilant, quietly attentive to any subtle changes around him. It wasn't long before Richard's shadow appeared again, unmistakably and deliberately. Alex was finalizing paperwork in the private terminal's lounge one quiet afternoon, reviewing details for an upcoming client trip. The soft hum of conversation from distant corners of the room was suddenly disrupted by Richard's unmistakably loud and confident voice. Richard strode in purposefully, his presence dominating the atmosphere immediately. He settled into a nearby armchair, flanked by his usual associates, clearly comfortable in asserting his control over this space. His eyes scanned the lounge, swiftly landing on Alex, and a faint smirk appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Ah, still here, Carter," Richard called out casually, his tone laced with subtle hostility masked as humor. "I thought you might have reconsidered your place in this community." Alex looked up slowly, carefully keeping his expression neutral, his voice calm and clear. "I'm exactly where I belong, Mr. Bennett," Alex replied steadily. He offered no further response, deliberately turning back to his work, clearly indicating the conversation was over. But Richard wasn't satisfied. His voice rose again, louder, designed to draw the attention of others in the room. "Well, I certainly hope your personal choices don't impact your professional judgment," Richard remarked loudly, letting the implication linger heavily in the silence that followed. Nearby conversations halted briefly as others turned subtly to observe the tension. Alex took a measured breath, recognizing this escalation clearly. He maintained his composure, calmly noting the time and witnesses present, mentally cataloging each detail of this growing pattern. "My personal life has no bearing on my professionalism," Alex responded firmly, turning once more to face Richard directly. "I assure you and everyone here of that." Richard narrowed his eyes slightly, momentarily taken aback by Alex's poised response. Yet unwilling to relent publicly, he leaned forward, his voice quieter but more venomous. "We'll see how long you manage to keep that facade," Richard hissed, quiet enough that only Alex could clearly hear. "This industry isn't suited to someone like you, no matter how competent you think you are." With that, Richard stood abruptly, signaling his entourage to follow as he exited the lounge. Alex remained seated, outwardly calm, but inwardly aware that Richard had escalated his confrontation significantly. He knew it wasn't mere hostility, this was a direct threat, clearly articulated and witnessed. In the following days, subtle but undeniable disruptions began to impact Alex's business. Regular clients suddenly became hesitant, citing vague reasons for reconsidering their contracts. Suppliers started delaying crucial deliveries, apologizing with increasingly strained explanations. Each incident, minor when considered alone, was clearly part of a broader pattern when viewed collectively. Alex carefully documented every irregularity, creating detailed records, emails, and notes about each incident. He understood deeply that this systematic disruption was no coincidence, especially given Richard's significant local influence. Still, Alex remained resolute, refusing to confront Richard impulsively or emotionally. Instead, Alex carefully sought allies within the community. He discreetly reached out to trusted contacts, sharing measured details without revealing his entire strategy. The responses were cautiously supportive yet hesitant. Many feared Richard's influence and were wary of openly challenging him. Yet amid these subtle shifts and cautious interactions, Alex remained determined, continuing to deliver impeccable service, maintaining his professionalism in every client interaction. Each successful flight, satisfied customer, and positive review was another quiet rebuke against Richard's attempts to undermine him. One afternoon, while preparing for an important international charter, Alex found himself unexpectedly approached by Martin, the senior mechanic he'd worked closely with for years. Martin looked visibly uncomfortable, his usual confidence diminished. "Alex," Martin began hesitantly, eyes darting nervously around the hangar. "I don't know what's going on, but people have been talking, Bennett's been, making inquiries about your credentials, your safety records." Alex studied Martin carefully, recognizing the mechanic's genuine concern and discomfort. He understood Martin's position was precarious. Standing against someone like Richard could risk his own job security. "Thanks for letting me know, Martin," Alex replied softly, his tone warm and appreciative. "Please keep your head down, I'll handle this." Martin nodded slowly, visibly relieved, then hurried away. Alex stood quietly for a moment, absorbing this confirmation of Richard's deeper attempts to discredit him. He knew these efforts weren't merely petty, they represented a calculated attempt to ruin his career and reputation. Later that evening, sitting quietly at home, Alex reviewed his growing files, meticulously organized and detailed. Jordan entered quietly, gently placing a reassuring hand on Alex's shoulder. "It's escalating, isn't it?" Jordan asked softly, concern evident in their voice. Alex nodded slowly, looking up thoughtfully. "Yes, but I'm ready. Richard Bennett doesn't realize how methodically I've prepared for something like this." Jordan squeezed Alex's shoulder reassuringly. "We're behind you always, you're not facing this alone." Alex smiled softly, comforted deeply by the unwavering support from Jordan. He knew this wasn't merely about his personal reputation. It was about maintaining dignity and pushing back against systemic injustice. This fight, as difficult as it might become, was necessary, not just for himself, but for others who might someday face similar situations. As the days unfolded, Alex continued to carefully document every encounter, every unusual incident, meticulously building an undeniable record. He knew that ultimately, his response had to be calm, strategic, and carefully planned. When the airport management finally called Alex for a formal meeting regarding vague concerns raised about his company, he felt no fear, only quiet resolve. Walking into the conference room, he noted the solemn faces of the airport administrators who were clearly uncomfortable with the accusations they had to address. Alex calmly took his seat, his files neatly arranged before him. He waited patiently as the administrators outlined their concerns, each echoing Richard's subtly planted accusations. When finally invited to respond, Alex spoke calmly and methodically, presenting clear evidence that disproved every allegation. The administrators sat stunned, clearly unprepared for such thorough documentation and professional composure. As Alex finished, a respectful silence filled the room. It was clear that the tide was turning, that Richard Bennett's attempts to sabotage Alex were beginning to unravel under the weight of careful, dignified, undeniable truth. Alex understood clearly now that the real battle had only just begun. The quiet storm had become a fierce confrontation, but he felt no fear. He knew the strength of his evidence, the clarity of his integrity, and the unwavering support of those who stood quietly behind him. Whatever came next, Alex Carter was prepared to face it with dignity, clarity, and calm resolve. As the weeks passed, the tension surrounding Alex Carter intensified. The ripple effects of Richard Bennett's subtle sabotage were becoming increasingly noticeable. Clients who had long trusted Alex began canceling flights without explanation, contracts suddenly fell through, and whispers spread through the aviation community that something wasn't quite right with Carter Aviation. Alex, however, remained steadfast, quietly documenting every canceled appointment, every vague apology, and every suspicious incident. He knew Richard was behind these events, orchestrating a careful and calculated campaign to push him out of the private aviation industry altogether. One morning, as Alex was preparing his aircraft for a critical charter flight, he received a phone call that sent chills down his spine. "Mr. Carter," came the stern voice from airport security. "We have a serious matter to discuss. Please report to the administrative office immediately." Arriving at the office, Alex found himself seated across from two airport security officers and an administrator, their faces gravely serious. His heartbeat quickened, but outwardly he remained composed, waiting patiently. "Alex," began the administrator carefully, clearly uncomfortable with the task at hand, "we received a report that your aircraft has not been properly maintained. Specifically, we were informed of serious safety violations." Alex's eyes narrowed slightly, but his voice remained calm. "That simply isn't true. All maintenance records are meticulously documented and readily available." "We received photographic evidence, Alex," interjected one security officer, pushing forward printed images of what appeared to be significant mechanical faults. "This is very serious. Until we can fully investigate, your operations here are suspended." Alex took the photos, instantly recognizing them as false. "These images have been doctored," he said firmly. "I can provide clear, time-stamped records disproving this immediately." "Please do," the administrator replied gravely, clearly troubled by the implications. Returning swiftly to his office, Alex meticulously gathered his documentation, ensuring every maintenance log and digital record was ready. Within an hour, he presented clear evidence to airport officials showing that the images had indeed been falsified. Despite Alex's compelling proof, the damage had been done. Rumors spread rapidly, further undermining his reputation. The suspension, although lifted promptly after verification, had cast doubt in the minds of existing and potential clients. Alex understood clearly that this was no random act. Richard Bennett's fingerprints were all over this incident. Feeling increasingly isolated, Alex considered his next steps carefully. He knew responding emotionally would play directly into Richard's strategy. Instead, he decided to quietly reach out to a trusted contact who could help him navigate this storm, Emily Thompson, a respected aviation regulator known for her integrity and fairness. Emily agreed to meet discreetly at a small cafe far from the airport. As they sat quietly, Alex carefully laid out his experiences, supported by a thick binder filled with documentation. Emily reviewed the materials thoughtfully, occasionally pausing to ask precise, pointed questions. "Alex," Emily finally said gently but firmly, "this isn't isolated harassment, it's a pattern. Richard Bennett has used his influence before. You're not alone." Her words validated what Alex had suspected all along. Emily revealed several similar incidents involving other aviation professionals, each systematically targeted by Richard. Alex felt a mixture of relief and renewed resolve, knowing he wasn't facing this alone meant a great deal. "We need more witnesses," Emily advised calmly. "People who have seen Richard act this way. Officially." Alex nodded, knowing the challenge ahead. Many individuals were reluctant to confront someone with Richard's influence. Yet he knew Emily was right. More voices had to come forward to fully expose the depth of Richard's misconduct. Over the next few days, Alex discreetly contacted colleagues and staff who might be willing to speak. Most hesitated, fearful of retaliation, but some showed cautious support. Martin, the senior mechanic, was among the first to commit. "I've seen things," Martin confessed quietly one evening, his expression grim. "Not just against you, Alex. Bennett's been pressuring others too. I'll speak officially if needed." Grateful for Martin's bravery, Alex gently encouraged others, building slowly but steadily toward a collective stand against Richard's bullying. As his support grew, Alex's confidence strengthened. He knew that each voice added weight to the truth he was determined to reveal. Meanwhile, Alex received an anonymous tip warning him that Richard intended further escalation. Disturbed yet resolute, Alex remained vigilant, heightening security measures around his aircraft and operations. The anticipated attack came shortly afterward, late at night. Security cameras captured masked individuals attempting to sabotage one of Alex's jets. The footage clearly showed deliberate acts of vandalism, actions that could have caused catastrophic failure if unnoticed. Immediately reporting the incident, Alex provided security and police with all relevant footage. Despite the masks, Alex was certain the perpetrators were linked to Richard. This physical threat marked a significant escalation, highlighting the dangerous lengths Richard was willing to pursue. The incident became public knowledge quickly, prompting local media to investigate. Although hesitant at first, Alex agreed to a carefully managed interview. Calm and composed, he shared facts, stressing the importance of integrity, professionalism, and safety. His steady, dignified presence resonated strongly with viewers, gradually shifting public opinion. Sympathy and support began replacing suspicion and doubt. Messages of encouragement poured in, bolstering Alex's resolve to continue fighting for justice. Yet Alex knew the battle was far from won. He had merely weathered the initial assault. Now he faced the daunting task of dismantling Richard's powerful network of influence. Late one evening, as he reviewed updated documentation at home, Jordan quietly entered the study, placing a comforting hand on Alex's shoulder. "Are you ready for what comes next?" Jordan asked softly. Alex took a deep breath, feeling both the weight of responsibility and the strength of purpose. "More ready than ever," he replied, determination evident in his voice. As Alex prepared to move forward, the storm clouds of the looming battle grew darker on the horizon. Yet he felt prepared, bolstered by careful planning, solid evidence, and the growing support from allies willing to stand by him. Whatever the cost, Alex knew it was vital to confront Richard Bennett's systemic discrimination head-on. He was ready to face whatever turbulence lay ahead, confident in his resolve to achieve justice, not just for himself but for everyone who had been targeted and silenced. As Alex Carter navigated the turmoil stirred by Richard Bennett, he found himself increasingly reliant on the careful documentation he had meticulously gathered. Each new event, recorded with precision and clarity, added strength to his growing case against the powerful executive. Alex knew that proving systemic discrimination required careful strategy, patience, and undeniable evidence. Emily Thompson became an essential ally, guiding Alex through the complexities of aviation regulations and formal complaint procedures. She advised him on precisely what type of evidence was most effective, emphasizing clarity, thoroughness, and professionalism. "We must ensure your records are impeccable," Emily reminded him during one of their many consultations. "Richard's influence runs deep, and we need irrefutable proof." Alex diligently compiled a comprehensive file of evidence, including emails, security footage, maintenance records, and witness statements. He methodically prepared each document, anticipating every challenge that Richard's powerful legal team might present. Recognizing the need for stronger, unequivocal witness testimony, Alex carefully reached out again to colleagues who had initially hesitated. Witnessing Alex's resolve, some began to reconsider their stance, cautiously agreeing to provide official statements supporting Alex's claims. One afternoon, Alex gathered a small group at his office, a private, secure setting away from airport scrutiny. Martin, along with two other mechanics, Mike and Sarah, attended the meeting, their expressions tense but determined. "I appreciate your courage in coming forward," Alex began calmly. "Your testimonies can make a real difference. I understand the risk you're taking, and I promise to support you fully." Martin spoke first, clearly nervous but resolute. "I've personally seen Bennett pressuring supervisors and spreading misinformation. He implied that anyone supporting you might suffer professionally." Mike nodded in agreement. "Richard came to our team directly, subtly threatening job security if we continued to support your company." Sarah's voice was steady, though her hands trembled slightly. "I overheard him directly instructing airport management to scrutinize your records excessively, hoping to find something they could use against you." Alex carefully documented each statement, ensuring every detail was precise. After the meeting, he privately reassured each witness, emphasizing that their bravery would not go unnoticed or unsupported. The collected testimonies significantly strengthened Alex's position. Armed with this powerful combination of evidence and allies, he formally submitted his complaint to aviation regulators, officially initiating an investigation into Richard Bennett's discriminatory practices. The response from Richard was swift and aggressive. Alex soon received notification of a countersuit alleging defamation and financial harm. Richard's lawyers presented exaggerated claims, aiming to intimidate Alex into backing down. Emily immediately reassured Alex, having anticipated such tactics. "We expected this," she said calmly. "Richard, trying to scare you, don't let this distract from the real issue. Our evidence is strong." Alex maintained his composure, responding calmly and methodically. Rather than succumbing to intimidation, he leveraged Richard's aggression as further proof of systematic harassment. As the investigation progressed, Alex discovered deeper, disturbing patterns. Richard had systematically targeted other minority-owned aviation businesses, orchestrating similar sabotage attempts and threats to eliminate competition and assert dominance. The trail of financial transactions, witness testimonies, and historical documentation painted a clear, troubling picture of Richard's long-standing discriminatory practices. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, aviation regulators expanded their inquiry. Alex's meticulous records formed the foundation of their case, substantiated by growing numbers of witnesses who, encouraged by Alex's resolve, finally felt confident enough to step forward. Public awareness grew steadily, fueled by carefully managed media coverage highlighting the investigation's impartiality and thoroughness. Alex's calm demeanor and careful statements during briefings earned him respect from industry peers and the broader community. The narrative shifted from suspicion to empathy and admiration. Amid this challenging period, Alex drew immense strength from Jordan and their daughter Emma. The unwavering support and love at home reinforced his resolve. Each evening, as Alex reviewed documents and planned his next moves, Jordan quietly provided reassurance and insight, reminding Alex of the broader importance of his battle. "You're not just fighting for yourself," Jordan reminded him gently one night. "You're fighting for fairness and accountability in the whole industry." These words resonated deeply with Alex, fueling his determination to continue despite mounting pressures and complexities. One evening, while working late, Alex received an unexpected call from Emily. "Alex," she said, her voice excited yet controlled, "we've uncovered critical financial evidence directly linking Richard to illegal payoffs aimed at discrediting your company. This could be decisive." Encouraged, Alex meticulously reviewed the newly discovered documents, carefully integrating them into his already extensive files. The evidence clearly demonstrated Richard's direct involvement in orchestrating systematic sabotage, bribing officials, and manipulating records. This discovery represented a pivotal turning point in the investigation. With regulators and legal experts carefully examining every detail, the case against Richard Bennett solidified. His aggressive tactics, initially intimidating, now appeared desperate and reckless. Alex remained composed, knowing the climactic confrontation loomed closer. His carefully built strategy was unfolding precisely as planned, with every documented piece of evidence strengthening his case and further exposing Richard's misconduct. As momentum built, Alex understood clearly that his battle was far from merely personal. It represented a much larger struggle against systemic injustice, discrimination, and abuse of power. Alex felt ready for the critical phase ahead, confident in the meticulous preparation, careful documentation, and steadfast support surrounding him. Despite Richard Bennett's persistent attempts to silence him, Alex Carter was prepared to face the coming storm, calm and resolute, determined to achieve lasting justice and meaningful systemic change. The investigation into Richard Bennett's misconduct deepened significantly, drawing increased scrutiny and attention from aviation regulators and local authorities. Alex Carter watched as the careful groundwork he'd laid began bearing fruit, his painstakingly documented evidence finally gaining the recognition it deserved. Emily Thompson continued guiding Alex with strategic precision, helping him prepare for the inevitable hearings that loomed. Alex's quiet resolve and thorough preparation steadily shifted perceptions within the aviation community. Colleagues once reluctant to associate openly with Alex began privately expressing support, cautiously acknowledging the credibility and clarity of his case. As Alex prepared for the official regulatory hearing, he carefully reviewed every detail of his evidence, knowing this would be his most significant challenge yet. Despite occasional waves of anxiety, he felt a quiet confidence in his methodical preparation. The documents, witness testimonies, and financial trails formed a coherent narrative of systemic discrimination and corruption. On the day of the hearing, Alex entered the regulatory building, exuding calm professionalism. The room was filled with aviation officials, legal representatives, and a few carefully selected media observers. Richard Bennett sat across from Alex, visibly tense, flanked by his high-powered legal team. The lead regulator opened proceedings, outlining the charges of systemic misconduct, harassment, and unethical business practices against Richard Bennett. The room listened attentively as Alex calmly presented his comprehensive evidence, clearly and concisely detailing each incident, supported by solid documentation and credible witness statements. Richard's attorneys attempted repeatedly to discredit Alex, aggressively challenging his evidence and questioning the integrity of his witnesses. Yet Alex remained poised and composed, responding methodically and confidently to each challenge, supported by Emily's quiet presence and reassurance. Martin, Mike, and Sarah each testified clearly and courageously, describing firsthand their experiences of intimidation and pressure from Richard Bennett. Their testimonies were powerful, visibly affecting many in the room and further validating Alex's claims. Midway through the hearing, Emily presented the recently discovered financial records, outlining Richard's direct involvement in bribery and illegal financial transactions aimed explicitly at sabotaging Alex's business. These revelations caused an audible stir, significantly undermining Richard's defense. Richard, visibly shaken by the turn of events, grew increasingly restless, occasionally whispering anxiously with his legal advisors. As more damning evidence was presented, Richard's facade of confidence began crumbling under the weight of clear, undeniable proof. Finally, the hearing reached a critical moment when the regulator directly addressed Richard. "Mr. Bennett," the regulator asked firmly, Can you provide a credible explanation for these documented financial transactions, clearly intended to undermine Carter Aviation? Richard hesitated, clearly unsettled, his voice wavering as he attempted an unconvincing response. His attempts to deflect blame and responsibility only intensified his apparent guilt, further eroding his position. Following this decisive exchange, the hearing adjourned briefly. Alex took a moment outside the chamber, feeling cautiously optimistic. Emily stood beside him, nodding encouragingly. "You did exactly what needed to be done," she reassured him quietly. "Now let the evidence speak for itself." When proceedings resumed, the regulator delivered their findings. Their carefully considered statement unequivocally acknowledged the credibility of Alex's case, explicitly condemning Richard Bennett's actions as unethical, discriminatory, and harmful. The regulator announced immediate consequences for Richard: revocation of airport privileges, heavy fines, and recommendations for criminal investigations into financial misconduct. The formal decision represented a decisive victory, validating Alex's meticulous preparation and unwavering professionalism. As the hearing concluded, Richard stormed out angrily, refusing to acknowledge the overwhelming defeat he had suffered. Alex remained seated briefly, absorbing the magnitude of this victory and the validation of months of quiet, determined effort. Outside the chamber, supporters gathered around Alex, offering heartfelt congratulations and expressions of admiration for his courage and dignity. Martin approached quietly, his face reflecting profound relief and pride. "We stood up to him, Alex," Martin said firmly. "And it mattered." Alex smiled warmly, deeply appreciative of Martin's support and bravery. He knew Martin's decision to speak out had significantly impacted the hearing's outcome, reinforcing the power of collective courage. Later that evening, at home with Jordan and Emma, Alex finally allowed himself a quiet moment to reflect on the day's events. The overwhelming sense of relief and validation felt deeply satisfying, yet he recognized the broader implications of his struggle. Jordan hugged him gently, their voice tender but strong. "You've changed things, Alex, not just for us but for many others who will follow." Alex nodded slowly, fully aware of the deeper truth behind Jordan's words. The victory he achieved today wasn't merely personal. It set an important precedent, significantly altering the landscape of private aviation by sending a clear message about accountability and fairness. In the following days, Alex saw tangible signs of the broader impact his case had initiated. The aviation community began openly discussing the necessity for systemic changes and improved regulations to prevent similar abuses of power in the future. Colleagues approached Alex with newfound respect, recognizing the courage and integrity he had displayed under intense pressure. As public awareness of his story spread, Alex received invitations to speak at industry events and forums, sharing insights about confronting discrimination and promoting transparency. His calm, dignified manner resonated deeply with audiences, fostering greater awareness and meaningful dialogue. The victory didn't eliminate all challenges. Alex understood clearly that systemic changes would require ongoing vigilance and sustained effort. However, this turning point signified a powerful step forward, laying a solid foundation for further reforms. With careful optimism, Alex Carter began planning the next phase of his journey, fully committed to supporting ongoing efforts toward accountability and justice. He felt empowered, knowing his actions had made a genuine difference, opening doors for others and creating opportunities for lasting change. Whatever new challenges lay ahead, Alex approached them with quiet confidence, ready to continue advocating for integrity, fairness, and systemic reform. The decisive victory at the regulatory hearing marked a significant milestone for Alex Carter, but he quickly realized that achieving justice was just the beginning of a longer journey. The repercussions of Richard Bennett's downfall resonated across the aviation industry, sparking widespread conversations about accountability, transparency, and systemic reform. In the days immediately following the hearing, Alex was flooded with messages of support from industry peers, community members, and even former skeptics who now recognized the magnitude of his accomplishment. However, Alex knew that true systemic change would require continued effort, vigilance, and cooperation. Emily Thompson remained a steadfast ally, guiding Alex through the complexities of implementing the reforms that their case had catalyzed. Together, they organized forums and workshops focused on transparency and anti-discrimination practices within aviation, attracting significant interest from professionals eager to avoid future abuses of power. "This isn't just about holding one person accountable," Emily emphasized during one of their many discussions. "It's about reshaping the entire system to ensure fairness and safety for everyone." Recognizing the unique opportunity this situation presented, Alex willingly took on a leadership role, actively participating in panels, public talks, and meetings with aviation regulators and industry leaders. His calm, articulate presence became influential, helping shift industry attitudes toward a more inclusive and accountable future. Meanwhile, Richard Bennett faced mounting legal consequences. Criminal investigations into his financial misconduct intensified, uncovering further unethical practices beyond those initially revealed. Public opinion firmly turned against him, and his reputation, once formidable, crumbled dramatically under scrutiny. Despite these developments, Richard still attempted to undermine Alex, employing tactics of public defamation and misinformation. Alex, however, remained consistently dignified and composed, responding carefully through official channels, supported by his extensive documentation and the robust network of allies he had carefully cultivated. One evening, Alex received an unexpected phone call from a former competitor, Maria Lopez, who had also been quietly targeted by Richard in the past. "Alex," Maria began warmly, her voice steady and sincere, "I just wanted to thank you. Your courage inspired many of us who felt powerless. Because of you, more people feel confident coming forward about their experiences." The conversation deeply moved Alex, reinforcing his understanding of the broader impact his actions had achieved. "Thank you, Maria," he replied genuinely. "Your support means a lot, and it's encouraging to know others are standing strong as well." This increased visibility brought additional scrutiny to systemic issues within private aviation, prompting regulators and industry bodies to enact stronger protections and clearer reporting processes. Emily played a crucial role in shaping these new standards, ensuring they effectively addressed the vulnerabilities that had allowed Richard's misconduct to thrive. Alex remained actively involved, continuously providing valuable insights derived from his experiences. He carefully balanced his advocacy work with managing Carter Aviation, which gradually began recovering from the setbacks inflicted by Richard's sabotage efforts. Clients who had previously distanced themselves returned with sincere apologies, recognizing their earlier judgments as unjustified. Alex welcomed them back graciously, maintaining his professional integrity without harboring resentment. Each renewed contract and satisfied client further strengthened his company's recovery. Despite these professional strides, Alex was mindful of the emotional toll the prolonged conflict had exacted. Jordan and Emma provided unwavering support, grounding Alex with their constant presence and reassurance. Their family bond deepened significantly, strengthened by their collective endurance through adversity. One quiet evening at home, as Alex reviewed new regulatory proposals, Jordan gently interrupted. "You need to rest too," Jordan reminded him softly. "You've done so much. Remember, taking care of yourself is part of this process." Alex smiled warmly, appreciating Jordan's care and understanding. "You're right," he admitted quietly. "I just feel responsible to keep pushing. There's still so much work to do." "And you'll do it better if you're rested and balanced," Jordan responded gently but firmly. "We're with you every step of the way, but don't neglect your own well-being." This reminder helped Alex approach his advocacy more sustainably, balancing public engagements and industry leadership roles with family time and personal reflection. Maintaining this equilibrium allowed him to remain focused, effective, and resilient in his ongoing efforts. Further bolstering Alex's commitment, aviation regulators invited him to join advisory committees aimed at developing robust anti-discrimination policies. His direct experience and insights were instrumental in crafting practical, enforceable guidelines designed to foster a safer, fairer industry. Through these roles, Alex formed strong relationships with influential industry figures, including executives and policymakers who shared his commitment to reform. These alliances greatly amplified the impact of his advocacy, facilitating significant policy shifts across private aviation. Meanwhile, the community response continued to grow, with grassroots initiatives emerging to further support victims of discrimination within aviation and beyond. Alex was frequently invited to speak at community events, sharing his experiences openly and constructively. During one such event, a young pilot approached Alex afterward, visibly moved. "I just wanted to thank you," the young man said earnestly. "I faced similar discrimination, but your story inspired me to speak up. It's made a huge difference." These moments profoundly impacted Alex, reinforcing the meaningfulness of his struggle and underscoring the importance of continuing his advocacy. Knowing his actions directly empowered others gave him renewed motivation and resolve. As time passed, the regulatory changes and advocacy efforts initiated by Alex's case began showing tangible results. Industry-wide training programs, improved reporting channels, and transparent oversight became standard practices, greatly reducing the risk of future abuses. Yet Alex remained acutely aware of the ongoing need for vigilance and action. He regularly reminded his peers and community members that maintaining these improvements required continuous effort and commitment. Reflecting on his journey, Alex recognized the deep value of persistence, patience, and principled action. His experiences had transformed his understanding of leadership, responsibility, and community, shaping him profoundly both personally and professionally. With quiet optimism, Alex Carter continued advocating for fairness and transparency within private aviation, fully dedicated to ensuring lasting, meaningful change. Each step forward, however small, represented another victory against systemic discrimination, bolstering his resolve to continue championing accountability, dignity, and justice. As the weeks turned into months, Alex Carter witnessed the gradual but unmistakable transformation of the private aviation industry. The policies and practices he had advocated for began taking firm root, reshaping the landscape toward greater accountability, transparency, and inclusivity. Alex's ongoing advocacy and leadership were widely recognized, and Carter Aviation experienced renewed growth and stability. Long-term clients reaffirmed their commitment, new partnerships flourished, and industry peers openly acknowledged Alex's integral role in driving meaningful change. Richard Bennett's influence steadily diminished, his power irreparably weakened by extensive legal actions and public disapproval. Once revered as untouchable, Richard now symbolized the consequences of unchecked power and discrimination. His legacy served as a cautionary tale, reinforcing the importance of integrity and justice within the industry. Yet, Alex's journey wasn't merely about professional success. It profoundly reshaped his personal perspective, deepening his commitment to community, advocacy, and mentorship. He frequently spoke at industry conferences, educational forums, and community events, sharing his story and emphasizing the importance of courage, resilience, and principled action. One bright afternoon, Alex stood before a large audience at an aviation industry conference, calmly addressing attendees gathered from around the world. His clear, steady voice resonated deeply as he reflected openly on his experiences. "The challenges we faced weren't just personal battles," Alex explained sincerely. "They revealed deeper issues within our systems, issues we must continually confront and correct. Our industry must always prioritize integrity, fairness, and transparency." The audience responded warmly, recognizing the authenticity and strength behind his words. Afterward, numerous attendees approached Alex individually, expressing gratitude, admiration, and solidarity. Many shared personal stories, inspired by Alex's courage to openly discuss discrimination and the necessity of accountability. Returning home that evening, Alex reflected deeply on these interactions, recognizing the ongoing importance of his advocacy. Jordan greeted him warmly, sensing Alex's reflective mood. "Your story continues inspiring people," Jordan reassured gently. "Never underestimate the power of your voice and actions." Alex nodded thoughtfully, deeply appreciative of Jordan's unwavering support. Their bond, strengthened significantly through adversity, remained central to Alex's enduring resilience and motivation. At Carter Aviation, Alex fostered an inclusive, respectful culture rooted in transparency and accountability. Employees felt valued and supported, empowered to speak openly about concerns without fear of reprisal. Productivity and morale flourished, clearly reflecting the positive impact of Alex's principled leadership. Martin, Mike, and Sarah thrived professionally, their courage during the investigation significantly enhancing their reputations. Alex ensured their bravery was recognized, promoting each to leadership roles within the company, acknowledging their integrity and dedication. During one quiet afternoon at the airport, Martin approached Alex privately, visibly emotional but deeply sincere. "I can't thank you enough, Alex," Martin began earnestly. "Your courage and integrity changed our workplace and industry forever. I've learned so much from you." Alex smiled warmly, genuinely moved by Martin's heartfelt gratitude. "We accomplished this together," he responded gently. "Your bravery and commitment were crucial in achieving justice and meaningful change." Such moments reminded Alex clearly of the significance behind his actions. Each step he took, every challenge overcome, contributed profoundly to creating a fairer, safer professional environment. As time progressed, Alex's reputation as a thoughtful, respected advocate grew stronger, prompting invitations to broader leadership roles within aviation industry groups. Accepting these opportunities, Alex embraced greater responsibility, dedicated to ensuring systemic accountability became permanently embedded within aviation practices worldwide. The impact of Alex's journey extended beyond aviation, inspiring professionals from diverse industries confronting similar systemic challenges. He often collaborated with cross-industry leaders, sharing experiences, strategies, and insights to support broader reforms. Despite his increased public role, Alex consistently prioritized family, ensuring he balanced professional demands with meaningful personal moments. Jordan and Emma remained central to his strength and inspiration, grounding Alex with their unwavering love and support. One evening, relaxing together after a busy week, Emma looked thoughtfully at Alex, her youthful curiosity evident. "Dad, did you always know you could make such a difference?" she asked innocently. Alex smiled softly, deeply touched by her sincerity. "Not always," he admitted gently. "But I knew standing up for what's right mattered. Sometimes, even small actions can lead to big changes." Emma nodded thoughtfully, clearly absorbing Alex's words deeply. These interactions profoundly affirmed Alex's commitment, reinforcing his understanding that true change began with principled actions, patience, and unwavering integrity. Alex's consistent advocacy gradually solidified systemic reforms within aviation, greatly reducing the likelihood of future abuses. New protocols, transparent reporting systems, and strengthened protections ensured sustainable industry improvements, significantly altering the aviation community for the better. Regulators and industry leaders frequently consulted Alex for insights and advice, recognizing his invaluable contributions. Through these interactions, Alex continued advocating passionately for ongoing vigilance, transparency, and accountability. Reflecting on his transformative journey, Alex understood clearly that achieving justice was only the beginning. Maintaining progress required continual effort, commitment, and resilience. Yet Alex felt prepared, confident in the strength of his experiences, community support, and personal integrity. As Alex considered the future, he envisioned clear horizons, marked not by the absence of challenges, but by an industry committed to confronting them openly, fairly, and responsibly. He remained deeply dedicated to ensuring this vision became reality, fully committed to continuing his advocacy indefinitely. With calm determination, Alex Carter embraced the ongoing journey, confident in his role as an advocate, leader, and mentor. The path ahead, though never easy, felt clearer and more hopeful than ever, illuminated by the powerful lessons learned through courage, dignity, and unwavering commitment to justice.